Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Thursday. Thanks for watching on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter. 24 hours later, everyone still is talking about Jakub Fowler. He who was officially recalled yesterday morning at 10 a.m., got the start last night in Ottawa, stopped 32 of 34 en route to a 3-2 Montreal Canadiens win. And boy, oh boy, was he ever good, especially in the final 2 minutes of that hockey game where he showed that under pressure, it didn't faze him one bit. He is the Montreal Canadiens' first of 5 possible standard recalls. What does that mean for picks 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the recalls? David Reinbacher has been playing some of the best hockey of his career over the last week to 10 days. Will he be recalled, and what does it mean for him? Can any Montreal Canadian player be sent down to the Laval Rocket? Michael Hage, his season should end somewhere between the first and second week of the month of April. Can we expect him to be recalled? What does that entail? And Nick Kypreos on the Leafs and Habs. We're working on a big trade. Which players / prospects were involved in those talks? We'll talk about this and all of this and much more. We're talking Habs with Nicolas Cloutier of TVA Sport. He joins me coming up in 3 short minutes. Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
It's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came in to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came in to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K, S-I-C-K,
S-I-C-K,
S-I-C-K, S-I-C-K, S-I-C-K.
all in, we came in to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the spot!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs!
John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked the young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Thursday. In all transparency, this was recorded just a little bit earlier than the standard live 10 p.m. time. I hope everyone's well. And the Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Betway. Get a deposit match, a bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. It's also brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading asset-light 3PL that's driven to be different from cross-border freight between Canada, USA, and Mexico. Coast-to-coast shipping in both Canada and the United States. Energy moves it all. They're fast, reliable, and powered by tech that delivers smarter logistics. If you need a real partner in transportation, contact the team at shipenergy.com and see how Energy Transportation Group is changing the freight game. Yesterday, I was on the net and I saw a great piece on TV Sport. And you know what? I don't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, but no, I think it was yesterday. Most definitely was yesterday. And I'm like, wow, this is a great piece. And it was followed up by another great piece on TV Sport again, both of them courtesy of Nicolas Cloutier. So you know what? I said, let me tackle it. Let me get him on. That's what we're going to talk about. We'll talk to you about our topics in just a moment. I think I already gave you a heads up, of course, in the first couple of minutes of the program. Let's bring him in from TV Sport, Nicolas Cloutier. How are you, man?
Thanks for the kind words, Tony. Honestly, if I'm totally honest with you, my head was killing me yesterday, crunching all those numbers. I had the worst migraine of my entire life. I had a good night's sleep, feeling better now.
I would imagine, though, that there was probably a person or two that you could actually call for references and to make sure you had all the right information, right? So that usually helps. But that was, listen, I read it and I'm like, okay, you know what? There's some serious work that went into this. Nick did an absolutely great job. So good for you, Nick.
Yeah, I've got a lot of help from Art Levine of Puckpedia, who's a terrific guy. He's actually the one managing the website, very well versed in the CBA and in salary cap. So hats off also to Hart for this. Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's amazing. Good to hear. All right, why don't we do this? Why don't we bring up, as a matter of fact, the screenshot of your article from one day ago and basically what it all means. Le casse-tête qui attend Kent Hughes ici la fin de la saison s'annonce compliqué, mais pas insurmontable. Basically, the puzzle that's going to go on for Kent Hughes between now and the end of the year is a complicated one, but it's something that is actually doable. Hage, Fowler, Reinbacher, Montembeault, Liney, all of them, everything that the general manager has to juggle with between now and the next couple of days. So we're going to talk about that. So we'll get to that. That's the piece. That's what it looks like on tvasports.ca. Go and read it, everyone. It's a fantastic piece. Before we get to that, the Canadiens have 5 possible standard recalls. Why don't we get to the lingo for a second here? Possible standard recalls and tell everyone what it means.
So a standard recall would be, hey, I want to give a shot to this young player. I can present a viable roster right now if I want to play a game in the NHL, but just for the heck of it, I just want to test that young player. Just like they did with Fowler. They didn't need to bring up Fowler. They had 2 healthy goalies. So that's a standard recall. Whereas an emergency recall would be, I absolutely need to call up this player from Laval if I want to have a viable roster for tonight's game. So that would not count against your 5 standard recalls, because obviously the NHL wouldn't let you be in such a bad situation where you cannot even play a game. So they do throw you a lifeboat with emergency recalls. But your 5 standard recalls would be the recalls you want to make with a healthy roster, like you not being forced by injuries. So they used their first one with Fowler yesterday, Tony.
All right, so Jakub Fowler recalled yesterday. I asked everyone who was on my post game last night. I'm going to ask you the same thing. Were you surprised?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised because clearly they do not trust Montembeault right now. But I did think they were maybe going to go back to Dobes on a back-to-back.
Yeah, you know what? And I thought they were going to go back to Dobes on the back-to-back too. But obviously, the second that we found out it was official that the Canadiens recalled Jakub Fowler, they didn't recall him to be on the bench. They called him to play in that game. And we've since found out, and I mentioned this last night on the post game, they got a hold of him on Monday to tell him, hey, you're going to Ottawa. And if they got a hold of him on Monday to tell him, hey, you're going to Ottawa, I'd be willing to bet that they told him, hey, you're going to Ottawa to play. You're not going to Ottawa to back up. So, and the big question now, everyone is, before we get to Fowler, is Montembeault done, or is Fowler here temporary?
Oh, Tony, you would have to think so. Like, do they trust him in big games? That was one of the biggest game of the season because there was an opportunity right there to bridge the gap with, to increase gap with Ottawa in the standings. And for one of the biggest game of the season, they didn't even think once about Montembeault, Tony. And the thing is, the Habs were also in talks. Apparently, there were rumors about the Habs shopping for a veteran goalie at the deadline. So it gives you a window into like how the Habs were managing this and how they were going about this. And I did think they were going to go back to Montembeault for what, like a couple of games, and these last couple of games would have said it all about Montembeault's future with Montreal. But I think their patience is already wearing thin. So how I see it is probably they're going to ride Dobes. They're going to give like 2 out of every 3 starts to Dobes, and they might sprinkle some Fowler call-ups just so he's not on the roster like every day, because your cap charge is based on the days you spend on the roster. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go to Dobes for 2 out of 3 starts, and when they do need Fowler, they just call him back up. They might do it twice again this season. So they might use 2 other standard recalls just on Fowler.
Okay, so I thought about it all day yesterday, and then even before the game, and I'm like, okay, how do they possibly go back to Montembeault? Because like you said, right? Like, how do they possibly go back to Montembeault? They played in a game last night that there were 7 points difference between the 2 teams going into the game. And with that win last night, with a win in regulation, they either go to 9 points for a Canadiens lead, or they narrow it down to 5. That was a big game. Traditionally, Marty St. Louis splits his goalies when it's 2 games and 2 nights. Traditionally, he does that. Only once this season did he actually play 1 goaltender back-to-back. He played Dobes 2 nights because on the second night, Samuel Montembeault was under the weather, I believe. And so the fact that they didn't go to Montembeault yesterday, the only thing I'm thinking about right now is if the Canadiens secure a playoff spot with a couple of games left in the season, and a win or loss has actually no bearing on the standings, and we already know who they're going to play, to give a goalie or 2 a night off, that's the only scenario, unless barring injury, of course. But all things equal, if Dobes and Fowler are healthy, the only way I see Montembeault playing another game is the final game or 2 games left in the regular season if a playoff spot is secured and it doesn't impact the standings whatsoever.
I do agree, Tony. And I mean, one of the reasons I think they were trying to get Monty's game back on track during the season was because he was signed to a contract for another year. Otherwise, they might have just rode Dobes this season. But I mean, I could understand why you needed to get Monty's confidence back, knowing that he was going to be here for another year. And the thing is, Tony, I don't even know if the Canadiens next year, they want to have 2 young goalies. They might want to throw a vet in there. And if that vet is not Montembeault, well, they're going to have some shopping to do this summer.
Are you saying that you think that there's a possibility that the Canadiens trade both Montembeault and Dobes this summer?
Well, I don't know about that, but I do know that Dobes next year, it's not going to take too long before he's waiver eligible. So that's one thing to take into consideration. So I don't really see Dobes going back to Laval anytime soon.
No.
And if Fowler keeps doing what he did last night, I don't really see Fowler going back to Laval either next season. So it
And
all depends.
I'm with you on that, but are you one of those that has an opinion that a young goaltender like Fowler needs a veteran backup and cannot have a Jakub Dobes in his second full season next year in the National Hockey League as his backup, or vice versa, as a duo, as a tandem?
Normally, I would hold that opinion, but at this point, I would not feel comfortable losing either one of those two young goalies.
Yeah.
So I would at least try it next season. I think we're heading towards something that is very similar to what the Bruins experienced with Swayman and Allmark.
Stefan Waite last night saying that he thinks the Canadiens are going to have a great duo going forward with Dobes and with Jakub Fowler. We'll talk about what Stefan had to say also, of course, in the next couple of minutes. But you said rumors swirling that the Canadiens were looking for a goalie. Do you believe they were?
I believe they checked, but some of the rumors actually did not make any sense. Like Bobrovsky with that cap hit, like it would have been really hard to make it work without trading Liney's contract. Binnington would have made sense if Montembeault was going back the other way because he did have one extra year to his contract. Could have been a veteran presence for either Fowler or Dobes next year. But other than that, honestly, it's so hard, Tony, to trade a goaltender during the season, because if you trade a goaltender to another team, well, most of the time, you need there's a goalie that needs to be going the other way, Tony. So it's very hard to find a reasonable trade in season for a goaltender. So while I did understand the rumors and the rationale behind it, I didn't really believe it was gonna happen.
I mentioned to Pierre Maguire last night that, on trade deadline day, when the Canadiens didn't make a move, I thought to myself, you know what?
Well, they did, but yeah, I hear you.
They could have used experience. They could have used physicality. They could have used a right-handed defenseman. And now over the last couple of days, I'm saying to myself, you know what? Kent Hughes has always given young players an opportunity. And if you listen to him carefully, when asked about going out and acquiring some players on trade deadline day, and he said, well, to go out and acquire a veteran to block a young player from getting experience, I figured I wasn't going to do that. And then so I started to think about it, and I said, you know what? Maybe his plan was, and he said that he wanted to improve the team, but at the same time, maybe his plan was, you know what? I'm going to bring up Fowler, and I wanted to get some big games down the stretch and gain that experience. I'm going to recall David Reinbacher, and I want him to get some big games and get that experience. So one is your goalie, one is your right-handed defenseman, and in terms of physicality, probably going to recall Florian Xhekaj, and that's how. And you know what? Maybe try and get him that experience. Now I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but what I do know is that they have 5 possible recalls, and they recalled 1, which is Jakub Fowler. Stefan Waite, Pierre Maguire, and Craig Button last night on my post game, unanimous. Canadiens make the playoffs. Jakub Fowler starting for them.
Oh, yeah, all 3 of them.
Yeah,
all three of them.
them.
Okay. I'm surprised, Tony. Honest, I'm surprised. And I don't know, like, I can't say I'm knowledgeable about the game as well as those 3. Like, I'd be a fool to say that. But I think people forget that Dobes is not lost in regulation a lot in this last stretch. Dobes, the only thing he has done for you is win hockey games. Dobes was excellent against Toronto, allowed only 1 goal. Dobes is the only reason you actually won against the Kings. I mean, you can say a lot of things about Dobes' technique, but it actually there's a method to the madness. It actually ends up working, and he's fighting for every puck. He's feisty, and to have these athletic abilities at his size, he has a lot of potential as well. And Fowler seems to be all of a sudden the shiny new toy, but we keep forgetting that Dobes was getting it done for Montreal, and in a larger sample than we saw from Fowler. That's the truth.
If I take a look at the fact that before Fowler went back down to Laval after his first call-up, he played that very important 4-point game versus Buffalo. He played that very important 4-point game versus Detroit. Unfortunately, he lost both of them. But they put him in those pressure situations, those big games. Last night, he played a 4-point game in Ottawa.
Yep.
I think, obviously, they want Fowler to be that guy. I think most of us expect that Fowler will be the guy eventually, whether he's going to be the guy this early. But when Marty St. Louis said at the end of October, early November, that he wasn't sure about the 2-goalie system, he expected it to be 1 goalie, and he anticipated that the starter was going to be Montembeault. It led me to believe that he didn't have a lot of confidence in Dobes, but that was back in late October, early November. Maybe things have changed, but you get the feeling with his second recall and giving him all the 4-point games, they definitely have confidence in Fowler.
I don't think he didn't have confidence in Dobes as much as he wanted to give Monty his mojo back. That was him supporting Montembeault. They did everything to get him back on, Tony. They did everything they could. It didn't work. So what do you want to do at this point? Well, but let me go back on what
up until the first week of March, as a matter of fact.
Of course, yeah, and I know you argued a lot about that with Jean-Charles, and it led to heated debates.
Listen, among others, the only thing I'll say is, so for me, it was, I think at one point it was obvious there was one goaltender who was winning games and there was one goaltender who was struggling, and the goaltender who was struggling, Montembeault, had a bad training camp. Like, he's been struggling since the third week of September. And they tried to get him back on track, and I can understand that. But I find that sometimes earlier in the season, to me, the way I looked at it was, it's okay to want to get Montembeault back on track, but to the detriment of the team, I didn't quite understand it.
Yep.
And obviously, I think the Canadians, they got to a point where they said, okay, you know what? We've tried. We can't continue to try and get him back on track if it's not working out. And that's the decision that was made yesterday morning.
Totally, Tony. And I do want to go back on what you said. Well, Fowler has been the guy, like the guy from the management from the get-go. Like, even when Primo was lights out in the AHL, Fowler comes up and all of a sudden he's the number one, even though he's not the veteran of this team and he hadn't even been playing with this team. But the thing is, I'm going to tell you one thing, though. I do think Dobes will give him a run for his money. Like, Fowler might end up with the number one spot, but this is going to be a battle. Like, people think it's going to be easy. Like, I've got people, like, behind the scenes talking to me, and they're saying, and they're very knowledgeable on goaltenders, by the way. Not everyone is knowledgeable on goaltender because it's an entirely different position, entirely different science. And they're telling me, you guys think it's not close between Dobes and Fowler. It's actually closer than you think. And I've got a couple of people that are very knowledgeable on goaltenders telling me this. Like, people behind the scenes, they have respect for Dobes' athleticism and the way he fights for pucks and the way he's his competitive spirit. I mean, this guy was jumping in the playoffs and he was trash talking the Washington Capitals players. Like, you've got to respect it, man.
Yeah. But those hockey people that you're talking about and those goalie connoisseurs are probably not convinced that his technique or lack thereof is actually sustainable for long-term success. Is that it? Because, look, as great as Dominic Hasek was, I think, in my opinion, at his the most dominant goaltender of all time, it just that obviously he didn't have longevity that some other great goaltenders did. Mm-hmm. Tim Thomas was very unorthodox as well. And some people thought that his luck was going to run out, but you know what? He was able to get hot enough to win one Stanley Cup, and he was a very good goaltender for several years.
Antiniemi rings the bell.
Yes,
he won a cup.
Yeah, with the Chicago Blackhawks.
He was a mess. He was a mess. He was swimming in his crease all the time as well. And Marco is actually working on that very tightly with Dobes right now. He calls it his carré de sable, like La Peinture Bleue. He calls it his carré de sable, and he doesn't want Dobes to go out of it so much because he does get too excited at times. But as soon as he figures that out, I mean, watch out. He's going to be a stellar goaltender.
Marco Marciano, of course, the Montreal Canadiens goaltending coach. It's something that no one's talked about. I haven't heard anyone bring it up at all. So I want to bring it up.
Yeah.
I want to get back to Montembeault for a second. Eric Raymond came under a lot of criticism, sometimes even by yours truly, where I said, listen, you know what?
Yeah.
Pierre Maguire was saying the Canadiens have to have Eric Raymond on speed dial. I mean, the goalies can't be losing their nets the way they are. And I was saying, you know what? There's something wrong because when Montembeault went down to Laval, when he came back, he was better. But then after a while, he wasn't. But you know what? Marco Marciano, who took over for Eric Raymond, he's been here for, I don't know how long he's been here, but it's been over a month. And yet Montembeault fell apart again. Are you willing to say that Montembeault's difficulties were probably not on Eric Raymond after all?
I mean, Eric Raymond, if there was one guy that was going to bat for Montembeault, that was him. They had a great relationship, Montembeault and Raymond, particularly, like those two. They had a great relationship. So I don't think it for Montembeault, I don't think it had anything to do with the goalie coach. But I do think Marco Marciano was a better fit for Dobes. I really do think that. The communication style, I think the chemistry was way better between Dobes and Marciano. And that's not a knock on Eric Raymond. Like, I mean, not everyone gets along, Tony. Like, that doesn't mean like they're bad people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I definitely know what you're saying. Okay, now, recall 1 of 5. We just discussed it. Jakub Fowler.
Yeah.
Let's just say Fowler is here for the next couple of weeks, and in 2 weeks, a miracle happens. Samuel Montembeault, who has not found his game the entire season, all of a sudden finds it. And the Canadiens decide, you know what? They got to send Fowler back down because Pascal Vincent would love to have him with the Rocket.
Yeah.
So if you recall Fowler, again, 2 or 3 weeks after that,
Yeah.
then that's another recall, correct?
Yep. Yep.
So
Even though it's the same player, it's another recall. Yeah.
So having said that, if you were a betting man, do you think Fowler's going back down at all? And they're going to end up burning a recall?
I do think so. Well, just to limit roster days, they might send him back up and back on.
Okay.
Just for cap purposes. Just for cap purposes, and that does not mean Montembeault is going to be playing games. He might be sitting on the bench. They're going to ride Dobes, and I do think they sprinkle some recalls here and there. And you guys will tell me, well, you're burning some standard recalls. Well, if you do have injuries, you're going to have 3 recalls available to you. Those are called emergency call-ups. And I don't think, Tony, the Avs plan on recalling too many players from Laval right now. Like Reinbacher maybe, but I think the roster's pretty set. I mean, hell, they have 7 healthy D-men right now. They have so many forwards in their lineup. They don't even know what to do with Texier at some point.
Yeah.
So it's not. I don't think it's in the plans or in the cards to recall that many players from Laval. So I have no issue if for cap purposes until the end of the year, they bring Fowler down just to send him back to Montreal a few days later when it's his time to have the net. Yeah.
Okay. I took a couple of screenshots from your article on TVA Sports, which we're going to bring up on the screen. But once again, I suggest to everyone to go to TVA Sports website and actually go read Nicolas' articles. If we could bring it up, the one that starts with Salon Puckpedia, there you have it. Why don't you translate what we're seeing right here?
Okay, yeah, I can't really see very well from here.
I'll translate it then. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
According to Puckpedia, the Canadiens have dated as of 11th of March yesterday.
Yeah.
A cap space of $768,368 after Jakub Fowler's recall. Every day that Fowler is with the Canadiens, he cost the Canadiens $4,809 in terms of the salary cap. Why? Simple calculation. Salary of $923,333 divided by 192 days, which is a number of days during the regular season. And so that works out to $4,809. Next.
Yeah.
You save on the salary cap every day
So I can explain that part if you want.
Sure. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so basically everyone think the salary cap is some fixed data that doesn't change day to day, but a team that does not have a player on the long-term injured reserve, so the LTIR, actually the salary cap is something that is recalculated every day during the 192 days of the regular season. So every day that you're under the cap, you actually accrue cap space. So the deeper we get into the season from the Canadians, the cap space of the Canadians actually grow. That's why right now, Tony, if they wanted to call up Reinbacher, they wouldn't have the cap space to do it. But actually, if you go all the way to next Monday, which would be March 16th, then they would have at this point accrued enough cap space to do it. So as soon as next Monday, if Fowler remains in the Abs roster, they can call up Reinbacher because they would have accrued cap space. So the cap charge is something that is calculated in the days that a said player spends in the roster. So when Fowler is in Laval, he has no cap space. He has no cap charge with Montreal. So, but it gets recalculated every day. That's why it's a moving target. And that's why the cap space that Montreal has right now is not the same cap space that Montreal will have in a few days. So that's why as soon as March 16 on Monday, the Montreal Canadiens will have the means to recall David Reinbacher from Laval, even though they cannot do it today as we're speaking to.
Got it. All right. Okay. And now, in terms of players being sent down to Laval, if they say, you know what, Joe Veleno, he hasn't played in the longest time. He needs to be playing. Obviously, he'd have to go through waivers.
Yeah, and that would be a problem. Okay, so every player that was not on an AHL roster before March 6th at 3 o'clock EST is not eligible to play in the AHL playoffs. But what people are missing is that these players are not even eligible to play for the end of the regular season in the AHL either. And what happens also is, let's say I put today I put Joe Veleno on waivers. You can put Joe Veleno on waivers. You're able to do that. But if a team picks up Joe Veleno on waivers, Joe Veleno could not even play games for them. Not even in the regular season, not even in the playoffs. And you know what? Even though he couldn't play games for them, he would still count against the cap. So basically, Tony, no team is going to claim Joe Veleno on waivers. And if he does go on waivers and he's not claimed, then you can't use him anymore. So it's not going to happen. Joe Veleno cannot even be sent down to Laval. He cannot even be claimed on waivers right now. So basically, he's going to stay in Montreal, and same applies for Patrick Laine. So the only loophole with Laine is if you would use something called LTI conditioning. So that's in the CBA. A player on the injured reserve can be sent to Laval for conditioning for a few days. So that would be the only exception. But Patrick Laine cannot be sent down to Laval.
And the same thing goes for Samuel Montembeault.
Exactly, Tony. So if they want to keep Fowler on the roster, they're just going to carry 3 goalies, which they might as well just do because there's no roster limit. The roster limit of 23 players that was applied during the season, it gets lifted on March 6th at the trade deadline. So that's not really an issue for the Canadiens. If they want to carry 20 goalies, they can. They just have to be confirmed to the cap.
Okay, so now let's talk about Michael Hage. Michael Hage, by all accounts, could probably join the Canadiens somewhere around the final game or the last 2 games of the regular season, depending on what's going on with his team, correct?
Yeah, correct. And Michigan is a force, so you do expect him to play the Frozen Four, which I think is held. The semifinals are April 9th, and the final would be April 11th. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and the Canadiens, if we take a look at their schedule, I'm just going to bring it up here right now. If we take a look at the Canadian schedule in the month of April.
I do think they play, like, at the end of the season, they're going to play the Islanders on the road and the Flyers on the road.
Correct. So Sunday, the 12th of April in New York, and
Yeah.
Tuesday, the 14th of April in Philadelphia. So if Michael Hage plays his final on the 11th, he could join the Canadians as early as the 12th in New York versus the Islanders.
Yeah. And let's say he plays, Michigan gets eliminated in the semifinals. I'm just going to confirm the date for the Frozen Four. I have it right here.
I think it's the 9th.
So 9th. Yeah, 9th.
Yes.
So the earliest he could get to Montreal is for like April 11th for a game against Columbus at home. But so he's not going to play a lot of games at the end of the regular season. And we've said that before, Tony. Your cap charge is calculated in roster days. So Michael Hage is going to spend so few days on the Abs roster that he's going to be really, really easy to fit on the cap, basically. So it's not an issue.
Yeah, no, I hear you 100%. You see it happening? Yeah,
of
get
course.
called up and
Like,
he'll burn a year contract.
the one caveat, Tony, is if they would have traded for forwards or established players at the deadline, because there's already a log jam up front. So if you would add it to that log jam, like, of course it would have been trickier for Hage to get in there. But with the way the roster is currently set up, it's not like Dach or a Dach or a Texier is killing it on the first line right now. So there's a nice. I think, you know what, Tony, I would try Hage on the first line, and bring Slav back on the second line. I would try that.
You would try Hage on the first line,
on the wing, that is,
and Slav back with Kapanen and Demidov.
Yeah, you absolutely have nothing to lose doing that. Like playing on the wing with a player as great as Suzuki, I think that's a nice fit right there. They both think the game at a very high level.
Yeah, young players usually don't come in and play on the first line, though, because the first line usually Suzuki gets deployed versus some of the other team's better players, and Suzuki 5-on-5 probably plays about 15 minutes. But I get it. He can skip some shifts every now and then. Like, I'm not expecting him to get a lot of ice time.
Send him for ozone faceoffs.
Yeah.
Like, insulate him if you want. But I do think, like, it would be smart to send him on the first line for a few shifts, especially at the end of the season if you have clinched. Now, if you get to the playoffs, that's another beast.
I hear you. Now, okay, on Friday, which was trade deadline day last week, Kent Hughes shared something with us members of the media, and I'm still wondering why he shared it, but it's great that he was transparent with us. That's always appreciated. And he said that he was working on something pretty significant, a pretty significant trade down the stretch, but they weren't able to get it over the line. He said one day maybe we'll talk about it over a beer in about 10 years from now, over a couple of beers. But it had a lot of people speculating and a lot of people wondering. I could tell you that the second he said it, I said, oh my God, he's talking about Robert Thomas. I was wrong.
Yeah, no.
But by all accounts, let's hear Nick Kyprios. Let's hear from Nick Kyprios.
Guys, did you catch wind of Kent Hughes in Montreal?
Depends.
About
what part?
I guess they all scheduled their post-trade deadline press conferences, and he was late because he was working on something
Yes, I did
big.
see that. Yes.
Yeah.
And it did that.
Now, I'm not telling you what's out. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing.
Oh.
All right? There is a sense in at least my inner world
I heard some things.
that the deal that he was working on was with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Really? That is really shocking, considering how infrequent they make a deal.
No way.
So are we talking for some of the guys who left or different guys?
All right, this is where we get to spitball now. Okay? What's going on over there?
I cannot wait for the next words that are going to come out of your mouth. I'm giddy over here.
Now, I think Elliot was the first to report Matthews Nyes' name out there. Mm-hmm. I had also heard it, and I put him on my trade board at the end of the week. And there is a sense out there that perhaps there was something brewing around that type of guy.
So if you're Montreal, Matthew Nyes makes unbelievably perfect sense for them. Big, young, got the, different type of guy than what they have.
I can tell you that his name was out there with multiple teams.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Yeah.
There you have it.
This is a name that has been circulating behind the scenes since last weekend, I think. And when you first hear it, it makes a ton of sense for Montreal, but at first glance, absolutely none for Toronto. Like when you draft a guy like Matthew Nyes, usually you keep him, and the last thing you do is trade him to the bitter rival in the same division. So, but I do understand why the Maple Leafs would entertain it. It's because, Tony, when you suck during the regular season, well, you still have some hope to cling on to. You have good prospects, or you have tons of draft capital. They have none of that. They have freaking none of that. They don't even have a first round pick. They don't even have a second round pick for this year's draft. And they don't even have some blue chip prospect out there.
But hold on. It's possible that they draft a first round pick, and that first round pick will never be as good as Matthew Nyes. Like, and I've heard this name too. And by the way, I've been told, Tony, this talk is for real. Like, this is legit stuff. Yeah. And I'm sure you heard the same. Okay.
I've heard the same. And I didn't believe it at first, though. I really did not believe it. I made calls, and when I heard that name, I thought it was completely nuts, Tony, honestly.
But I understand that they don't have draft capital. But why would they want to trade a 23-year-old power forward?
Okay, because look at the player on the roster. Matthew Nyes does not have a no-trade clause. He does not have a no-move clause. He's your best asset if you want to recoup some asset. And after, okay, let's say you get a boatload of assets back for Matthew Nyes, then you can flip them over for established players if you want to go the road of a reset, like Bergevin said back in the day, like the reset on the fly, you would call it. Because if you tear it down to the studs, Tony, you know as well as me that Matthews is going to be leaving.
Eventually.
So the stakes are pretty high for the Leafs.
It's inevitable.
Exactly. So for a quick turnaround, the best player you can trade to recoup some assets and operate a quick reset, Tony, is Matthew Nyes. And Montreal has the pieces to make it happen. Like, if you're in love, if you're enamored with a prospect in Montreal's cupboard, if you're enamored with Goalie, I could see why. Okay, so I'm just spitballing here. Okay, I have no idea what was thrown out there to try to get this to try to pry this player from Toronto. But let's say the package is along the lines of Zachovsky, Goalie, and a first. Well, that's enticing for Toronto, and you would still do it if you're Kent Hughes. Kent Hughes said he was going to overpay for the right player. Matthew Nyes, Tony, is the right player.
I think he's the right player. For big games, you want the best beers on your team, whether it's Bittt Tibi IPA with its bold flavor, Bittt Tibi Lager with its exceptional smoothness, or Bittt Tibi Ultra Lager, which is ultra light and ultra refreshing. They always have the place. They always have a place on your team. Bittt Tibi, brewed for special occasions. Please drink responsibly. If you want to get in on the action. Oh, by the way, speaking of Bittt Tibi, hold on a second. I have something that's pretty amazing. Listen to this. Look at this giveaway. Isn't this something? Enter for a chance to win a 2-in-1 fire pit and ice bin. Courez la chance de gagner un foyer extérieur et bac à glace 2 en 1. This is an unbelievable giveaway. Take a look at the Sick Podcast, of course, on all our social media channels for this giveaway and participate. Also, if you want to get on in the action, the Canadians are next going to play the San Jose Sharks on Saturday night at the Bell Center, and then the Ducks Sunday night at the Bell Center, another back-to-back. Go all the way with Betway. Get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. Scan the QR code on the screen. Click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer is not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And once again, please play responsibly. All right, okay. So with that said, What if Toronto asked for Reinbacher for Matthew Nice?
Oh, well,
Are you talking?
at this point, he's not an untouchable. Reinbacher is not an untouchable if you're talking about a player like Matthew Nice. I'm sorry.
Would you, if you're the Canadians, would you be more?
And I love Reinbacher, by the way. What?
Would you be more, if you're the Canadians, would you be more enticed to involve Goalie in a trade or Reinbacher, and why?
Depends. If you have a second trade brewing, so let's say you trade Goalie, but you have a second trade brewing that follows right up, and it brings you a big right-ended D, and you balance out your top four. I could see why they would trade Goalie. Goalie has like two shortcomings. He has like two flaws. He's injury prone, and he's a left shot. That's the only two things. Because heck, you want more goalies on your team, not less. Like I totally agree with that, Tony. But if you're able to mitigate the risk of trading Goalie by then trading immediately for RHD. Well, we live in a different world now. It's totally different.
Yeah. I think Engstrom's an X factor in all of this because although I'm convinced that Jackeye or Struble could make a good third pairing defenseman, I think Engstrom's ceiling is it's a little higher. And if he really pans out and takes his game to another level, he could make a guy like Goalie more expendable. Because let's face it, the Canadians on left D already have a Mike Matheson and a Lane Hudson. But Lane Hudson's playing the right side right now because obviously a right D is missing. But if Reinbacher comes up, at one point you have Noah Dobson, you have Alex Carrier, and you have David Reinbacher. So I agree with you that Goalie's not an untouchable. I agree with you that Reinbacher is not an untouchable. But based on the people that you're talking to, what's the story with Reinbacher? Because we know that the last week and a half, 10 days have been pretty much some of the best hockey he's played since coming over to North America, playing 24, 25, 26 minutes a game.
I talked to Reinbacher a couple of weeks ago, and at this point, I had interviewed this guy maybe 5 or 6 times, and that was the first time a couple of weeks ago I've seen him this happy. He had the biggest smile on his face, because you know what? Like he's not the most talkative or most enthusiastic person.
No.
So there was always a bit of an awkwardness when I interviewed him. And I don't think he's a bad kid at all. He's a good kid. But there was always an awkwardness. And I didn't see that a couple of weeks ago. I saw a changed man. I saw a confident man. I saw a man that was feeling good in his own skin. I saw someone that adjusted to life in North America. I saw a totally different David Reinbacher, Tony.
I hear you. And confidence, right? He's confident right now because he's playing his best hockey. He's healthy. He's playing his best hockey. So he feels good about himself. And
of course.
You know what? It's not like anyone because you know what? When Engstrom was called up from the Canadians, he probably could have been saying to himself, you know what? You start to feel the pressure, and then all of a sudden somebody that you play with has been called up and you're not called up yet and stuff like that. It's probably something that weighed on him as well. He doesn't have to worry about that right now.
No, not at all. And you know, a funny thing Pascal said to me is this season he was working on getting Reinbacher back to the level he was in his draft year. Because I remember in his draft year, David Reinbacher was a horse. Like his gap control was elite. He would suffocate every forward on the opposite side. But because of the injuries, he kind of lost his mojo. That's what happens when you don't play hockey for like 2 years, Tony. It's bound to happen. So people need to be more patient with Reinbacher than they would usually be with 5th overall pick. Because I do understand at this point, at this age, a 5th overall pick should already be up in the big club and playing some huge games and some huge minutes. I do understand that. But the reality is not quite the same because he's missed so much time. So, if in a year or so, Tony, we're still talking, and Reinbacher is not playing big minutes in the top 4, then we can have that conversation. But right now, he's still on track to be a hell of a good D-man for the Canadians.
When the Canadians acquired Kirby Dach, they were hoping that he was going to be a top 6. They were hoping that he was going to be a centerman. And it turns out he's been playing wing now for quite some time here down the stretch because clearly his play at center was not overly convincing. You talked about Caden Goalie and his injury troubles and his share of bad luck.
Yeah.
Kirby Dach has had even more injuries and even more bad luck than Caden Goalie. When a team is going to give up size, they usually try and get size back in return. You think it's possible that
I see where you're going.
was part of the trade talk, seeing that Kirby Dach's in a 4-year deal of a 4-year contract, and his spot in Montreal going forward is obviously not assured?
Yeah, it would make a ton of sense if he was involved in those conversations. The other thing with Kirby Dach, Tony, is qualifying offer this summer is going to be set at $4 million. And by then I know I know the cap is increasing, and we're in a new cap world, and a $4 million cap hit is not what it was a couple of years ago. But all the Abs are mindful of how they spend their money, how they negotiate with players. I don't think they would be too comfortable with this price tag for Kirby Dach, and it's set now at the minimum if you negotiate with him and you give him his qualifying offer. So you know what I think could happen, Tony, if they don't trade Kirby Dach, they might not qualify him and still try to get him under contract at a lower price. That might happen, honestly. So I could see if we're entertaining those conversations right now about Dach and his price tag. Well, of course, it would come in mind if you're talking about trades, and if you're talking about balancing the cap. If you cannot trade Laine, if you get rid of his cap hit, well, that gives you more leeway to do some other things. And the thing is, right now there's a logjam at forward, and Texier was extended. So it might come down to, who do you think you're keeping now? You can't keep both. Are you keeping Texier, or are you keeping Dach? Both players, by the way, played on the first line at some point during the season. Both players have different game, different styles, so you might not value the same thing. But I think you cannot keep both, Tony.
I listen. I hear you. I have a hard time seeing Kirby Dach going forward with the Canadians.
Me too.
In terms of a long-term future, because after 3 or 4 years, you probably are who you are, especially when you've already, you're in your 6th, 7th season in the National Hockey League. Mind you, because of injuries, you probably played about 4 full seasons instead of 7. But Slafkovsky is the perfect complement, I find, to Suzuki and Caulfield. But you said, you know what, if they could go out and you were saying, you put another player on that line and you put Slafkovsky back on the second line. Once again, you were saying Michael Hage. If Michael Hage ends up being a top 6 player and Kirby Dach doesn't end up being a top 6 player, does Kirby Dach end up on an energy line? Does Kirby Dach end up on a shutdown line? Does Kirby Dach... I'm not so sure he has those. He does have the physical attributes to be part of some kind of energy line. But, when he decides to throw his weight around, he's very effective. Unfortunately, he doesn't feel like doing that all the time.
He doesn't do it consistently, but just because he can do it some nights, and he's very effective when he does it, is why he does have some value around the NHL, I believe, Tony. If I would be a Western Conference team, I would look at Kirby Dach at some player that could help my top 9. And I'm not saying top 6 here, because I think ideally in your roster, Kirby Dach would be a third line player, and he would be playing wing. I don't think he has the hockey sense to contribute in the top 6 long term, but I do think he could make a decent top 9 forward, and that's where his value would reside with other teams. This is not an untradeable asset. He's still a right shot. He's still a big right shot player that can play wing and play center at times. So that has value to NHL teams, just with the size, just with the bit of skills, and with the physicality, as you alluded to.
And the fact that, of course, he's a former first-round pick, 3rd overall, that's always amazing. Another team looks at him and says, hey, you know what? This guy's 6'4", 220 pounds. He's only 25 years old. He's a right-handed centerman. I can get this guy going. There's going to be a team that's going to think that, you know what, a change of scenery and Kirby Dach will do well. When you talk about the fact that you said, you know what, they might not qualify him and they might try and get him for cheaper, there's something interesting going on right now, and a couple of people have whispered in my ear, and you know what? And I almost saw this before they even told me. Players want to stay in Montreal now, and they want to stay in Montreal badly. And as a matter of fact, you know what? If you're an agent for a Montreal player, the player says, "Listen, I just want to stay there." And I think of the Lane Hudson situation, for example, which I know you worked very, very hard on that file as well, right? That contract ended up getting done, and Hudson wasn't holding all the cards because he was in his second full season in the National Hockey League, and the Canadians were holding the upper hand on that one. But they probably could have not signed and waited another 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, the end of the season, and got more money. But ultimately, they signed because Lane Hudson wanted to sign. Lane Hudson viewed it as a distraction, and because Lane Hudson said, "I don't want this to get ugly. I don't want to end up getting moved somewhere else because I'd rather be in Montreal." So,
his agent told me on the record, like Lane Hudson signed because Lane Hudson, when the team was in Detroit, Lane Hudson called his agent and said, "You know what? I don't want to be a distraction for my teammates, so get it done." So that's what happened. Like Lane Hudson could have very well waited, and like you said, Tony, he would have gotten more money. But Kent Hughes is a master of leverage. That's the thing. He's a master of leverage, and he's gonna leverage it with Kirby Dach if he knows Kirby Dach wants to stay in Montreal. He's gonna leverage that. But one thing that I do want to mention though is that Hudson's agent in a situation where it wasn't really easy and he didn't hold all the cards because of the situation and he didn't have leverage because of a deadline with signing bonuses. He got a lot for Hudson in terms of signing bonuses. Like it's a record amount for 10.2C RFAs.
His $8.85 million per year, Hudson, probably equates to somewhere around a $10.35 million contract, right? Considering the way it was structured and what all the bonuses
exactly.
All right, okay. So look into your crystal ball before I let you go.
Mm-hmm.
Who are going to be the recalls, the 5 of them, between now and the end of the year? Jakub Fowler's your first. You got 4 left.
They're not going to use them all, Tony. That's the thing. I'm telling you right now. Like who else are you going to recall from Laval? I don't think they're going to call up Florian. They already have so many options up front. I do think they sprinkle some call-ups.
The options they have up front, do they have Florian's characteristics?
No, you're right.
He's pretty unique. I had a conversation with Denny Gauthier earlier this morning. All right, on the Sick Podcast en français, and Denny's son Ethan obviously plays for the Syracuse Crunch, which is the American Hockey League affiliate of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they played here last week. And Ethan told Denny, Florian Jacquet has a presence on the ice. He's very intimidating. Now. Will he be very intimidating at the National Hockey League level? I think one day. I think maybe not yet, but I think the Canadians saw in that series versus the Washington Capitals last year that they need a couple of Florian Jacquets.
They do. But you can call him out for during the playoffs as well if you want to.
Yeah, but I would imagine too, it's the kind of player that Pascal Vincent would like to have on his team, and I would imagine that Pascal Vincent would like to have Jakub Fowler on his team as well. But
he doesn't have first pick.
Correct. The priority is the Montreal Canadiens and not the Laval Rocket. Nick, couple of games for the Canadiens on the weekend. Saturday they host San Jose. Sunday they host Anaheim. Who are your goaltenders for those games, and what do you see happening?
It's a back-to-back, correct?
It is a back-to-back. Saturday, San Jose, which, by the way, Dobes lost to last week and gave up 6 goals versus the Sharks. And then they play Anaheim on Sunday, who beat the Canadians last week on Friday, and Montembeault got shelled in that one. So because of that, and I had this conversation with Martin Biron, and I agree with him 1,000%, I'll go with Jakub Fowler on Saturday night versus San Jose, who beat Dobes last week, and I'll give Dobes the Ducks.
Okay, well, you could turn this around. You give the opportunity for Dobes to exercise his demons.
I hear you. You can give the opportunity to bounce back, but I mean, and obviously
playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, and obviously he can. But if a team had your number, about a week ago,
I see it.
I understand. That would be.
Can we agree both goalies will play? Let's agree on that.
Both goalies will play this weekend, and either it's going to be Macklin Celebrini versus Jakub Fowler, or it's going to be, Lou Carlson and the Anaheim Ducks versus Jakub Fowler. We're going to see.
Pick your poison.
We're going to see a lot of great talent this weekend, because I think this weekend in Montreal, San Jose, and Anaheim, we're going to see 3 organizations that will win a total of at least 3 cups.
Oh gosh.
In the next 13 years. I'm using 3.
Oh, 13. Oh, that's fine.
Eh?
That's fine. Yeah. I like where you're going. So,
look at the Boston Bruins in a span of about it's 15 years now. But the Boston Bruins went to in the last 15 years, but they actually even did it in about probably 10-year span. They went to 3 finals, right? They won 1, they lost 2. The Florida Panthers went to 3 straight finals. They won the last 2 years. The Tampa Bay Lightning went to
Tampa. It took time.
Yeah, 3 straight finals as well. I think, look, Tampa Bay won, Chicago won, Pittsburgh won. There's a couple of organizations that won. I think the Canadiens, the Sharks, and the Ducks are going to be 3 of those organizations that are going to win the cup in the next decade, or probably decade and a half.
Tony, I do think the window for Montreal is closer than we think, and that's why I think the management is going to be really aggressive this summer. Nick Suzuki he's not 22, and he's not 25. He's 27. So he's right in the thick of his prime years, and you don't want to waste those prime years. I think that management is really sensitive to that, and that's why they're going to make a big push this summer.
That's going to be another podcast for another day. Nicolas Cloutier, Sport. I loved your work this week. There was actually a second article that you came out with earlier today, if we can bring that up very, very quickly. Au même moment où la participation aux séries du CH se cristallise, le portrait se précise aussi pour un éventuel adversaire au premier tour.
Yep.
There's 60% chance that the Canadiens are going to take on who in the playoffs?
Tampa or Buffalo?
Yeah, that's what it is.
So pick your poison. Pick your poison. Like, who would you rather face, by the way? I'm curious.
You know what?
I was not able to answer that question this morning.
Tampa has more playoff experience. They have Stanley Cup experience. The Buffalo Sabres, though, are quite the animal. But I'd say this. I would go visit both cities. But if I had to plan a trip and go to cover 1 or 2 games on the road for the Canadiens, I wouldn't mind going down to Tampa. I really wouldn't.
Of course.
Nick, always a pleasure. Continue your great work. We'll talk to you soon, my man.
Of course. Likewise, Tony.
Merci
Take
beaucoup.
care.
Le voilà, Nicolas Cloutier of TVA Sport. Marinaro, want to let you all know that I'm going to be on the road on Saturday, March 21st. Where am I going to be? I'm going to be at Cafe Milano's. They have 3 locations, one on Jarry and St. Leonard, another on St. Martin and Laval, and another on Brunswick and Point Claire. Where am I going to be? I'm going to be on the West Island. Saturday, the 21st of March. They're going to show the Canadiens game versus Patrick Roy and the New York Islanders. I'll be watching the game right there at Cafe Milano in Point Claire. And after the game at 10 p.m., I'm going on live with a Habs post-game show live from Cafe Milano on Brunswick in Point Claire on Saturday, March 21st. I hope to see you there in big numbers. I see a lot of you on the chat. I've met some of you. I haven't met most of you, and this is an opportunity where I can meet you, and I'd love to meet you. Thanks for watching. Again, we'll talk to you again tomorrow night at 10 p.m. on Friday's edition of the Sick Podcast in English. And before that, I'll be back demain matin en français à 10h le matin, vendredi matin, avec des collaborateurs comme Anthony Martineau, Jack Hann et Eric Oziel. Merci de nous regarder. Thanks for watching. It's the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Tibi, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.